Mia was the constant in my life, the one person who never changed. While I moved between cities chasing career opportunities, she stayed in our hometown, content with her photography studio and her modest apartment. While I moved between cities chasing career opportunities, she stayed in our hometown, content with her photography studio and her modest apartment above the local bookstore. We'd been inseparable since our first day in high school, when she'd caught me sketching in the back of chemistry class and decided we were going to be friends. For 15 years, no matter where I lived, we talked almost daily. So, when 2 weeks passed without a response to my texts or calls, I knew something was wrong. "She hasn't been to the studio in over a week," her assistant told me when I called. "I thought she was visiting you." I drove back to our hometown that same day, anxiety knotting in my stomach. Mia's apartment was untouched, plants still alive, mail stacked neatly on the counter, her camera bag missing. Nothing suggested foul play, but nothing explained her absence either. "Maybe she met someone," my mother suggested when I stopped by. "Remember when she dated that musician and disappeared for a month?" But that had been different. Even during her most whirlwind romance, Mia had still responded to texts. She'd never gone completely silent. I filed a missing persons report, but the police showed little interest. "She's an adult," the officer said, barely looking up from his computer. "No signs of forced entry, no suspicious bank activity. People are allowed to take off without telling everyone their plans." Weeks turned into months. Mia's parents hired a private investigator who found nothing. Her social media accounts remained dormant. The photography studio eventually closed. People stopped asking about her. The world moved on, but I couldn't. 6 months after her disappearance, Mia's landlord called me. "I'm clearing out her apartment," he said. "Her parents took most of the furniture, but there's a box of miscellaneous stuff they don't want. You can have it if you come by today. Otherwise, it's going to donation." The box was small, just some books, a few framed photos, and an old external hard drive I didn't recognize. I plugged it into my laptop that night, expecting to find backup copies of her photography work. Instead, I found something that made my blood run cold. The hard drive contained thousands of files meticulously organized into folders with cryptic names, strings of numbers, and letters that meant nothing to me. Most were encrypted, but one folder, labeled simply "Beneath," was accessible. Inside was a single text document. It read, "If something happens to me, this drive goes to Alex. Alex, if you're reading this, I've found something terrible. The URLs below will take you there, but be careful. Use Tor, use a VPN, tell no one." I don't know how deep this goes, but I'm going to find out. M. Below were several links ending in .onion, dark web addresses. I should have turned the hard drive over to the police immediately. I should have walked away. But this was the first real clue to what had happened to Mia, and I couldn't ignore it. I set up a secure system using every privacy measure I could think of: a dedicated laptop, multiple VPNs, the Tor browser. Then, with shaking hands, I clicked the first link. It led to what appeared to be a forum, its interface reminiscent of early 2000s message boards, but with a sleek, modern functionality. The site was called The Collection, and its landing page featured an elegant logo of a birdcage. I scrolled through discussions about acquisitions, special requests, and custom orders. At first, I thought it might be some kind of underground marketplace for stolen art or antiques, the kind of thing Mia might investigate for a photography project. Then I saw the catalog section, my screen filled with photographs of people, men and women of various ages, each image accompanied by a serial number and brief description. Female, 24, classically trained pianist. Male, 19, exceptional physical condition, no visible markings. Female, 32, fluent in 4 languages. These weren't art pieces or antiques. These were people being sold. I felt sick, but I forced myself to continue researching. Page after page, I scanned the faces, dreading what I might find. On the 8th page, my worst fears were confirmed. There was Mia, looking directly into the camera, her expression blank, but her eyes burning with defiance. The listing read, female, 29, professional photographer, unique acquisition with specialized knowledge, current bid 45.3 BTC. The room seemed to tilt around me. I closed the laptop and ran to the bathroom, barely making it before I threw up. When I returned, hands still shaking, I noticed something I'd missed before, a small chat icon blinking in the corner of the screen. A message waited for me. Looking for something specific? New user? I stared at the message, unsure how to respond. Was this a trap? Had they somehow tracked me already? The cursor blinked, waiting. Just browsing, I finally typed, trying to sound casual. First-timers always say that, but nobody finds the collection by accident. What's your interest? I needed to sound convincing. Photography subjects, I wrote, the words making me ill. Heard you might have someone with the right aesthetic. Ah, you're looking at lot 217, exceptional find, stubborn though. Bidding ends in 48 hours. Lot 217, Mia, 48 hours until she was sold to the highest bidder. Interested in making a bid? The anonymous user pressed. Maybe. Where are your acquisitions kept? I'd want to inspect before committing. Nice try, friend. Inspection is only available to verified buyers with at least 3 previous purchases. The conversation ended there, but I'd learned what I needed to know. Mia was alive, at least for now, and I had 2 days to find her. I spent the next 24 hours in a frenzy, diving deeper into the collection's dark web presence. I created a more convincing user profile, claiming to be a wealthy collector interested in unique acquisitions. I studied the language other users employed, the casual way they discussed human beings as commodities. I discovered that the collection operated differently from typical black markets. Buyers didn't just purchase people, they purchased experiences, ranging from short-term rentals to permanent ownership. The entire operation was frighteningly sophisticated, with escrow systems for cryptocurrency payments and elaborate security protocols. By midnight, I'd managed to position myself as a potentially serious buyer. Through careful conversations, I pieced together that merchandise was kept at various holding facilities before being transferred to buyers. New acquisitions were typically held at the nearest regional facility, but where was the closest one to our hometown? I needed more information, and I was running out of time. In desperation, I reached out to another user who had been particularly helpful, a person with the username Curator's Assistant. I'm particularly interested in Lot 217, I wrote, but the auction ends soon. If I were to make a premium offer, could a private viewing be arranged? The response came quickly. Exceptions can be made for the right price. 20 BTC for a private viewing, location disclosed 1 hour before, solo inspection only. 20 Bitcoin was nearly $600,000. Money I didn't have, but I replied as if the amount was trivial. Done. When? Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Payment confirms location, came the answer. I had less than a day to figure out how to come up with an enormous sum of cryptocurrency or find another way to locate Mia. Sleep was impossible. I paced my hotel room, running through scenarios, each more desperate than the last. At dawn, I did the only thing I could think of. I called the FBI. This is going to sound crazy, I told the agent who eventually took my call after I'd been transferred multiple times, but I've found evidence of a human trafficking network operating on the dark web. To my surprise, the agent didn't dismiss me. "What's the site?" he asked. I explained everything: the hard drive, the collection, Mia's listing. As I spoke, I could hear the click of computer keys in the background. "We're aware of this network," he said finally. "It's been on our radar for some time, but their operational security is exceptional. We've never been able to locate their physical facilities." "I might be able to get that information," I said, explaining the viewing I'd arranged. "Sir, I need to be absolutely clear. Do not attempt to engage with these people. They are extremely dangerous. I'm going to connect you with our human trafficking task force. They'll want the hard drive and any other evidence you've collected." "There's no time," I protested. "The auction ends tomorrow. They'll move her." "We'll move as quickly as we can, but..." I hung up. The FBI might eventually bring down the collection, but they wouldn't save Mia in the next 36 hours. That was on me. I spent the morning selling everything I could: my car, my laptop, even the watch my grandfather had left me. I borrowed money from friends under false pretenses, and I maxed out credit cards to buy Bitcoin through every exchange that didn't require lengthy verification. By mid-afternoon, I had scraped together about 3 BTC, nowhere near the 20 that they wanted. But it would have to do. At exactly 2 p.m., I messaged Curator's assistant, "Ready for viewing, partial payment now, remainder on inspection." Minutes passed with no response. At 2:17, a reply finally came: "Insufficient. Full payment required." "I can have the full amount tomorrow," I lied, "but I need to ensure the merchandise meets my requirements first. 3 BTC now shows my commitment." Another long pause. "Management has approved a short viewing with Escort. 3 BTC received will be credited toward final purchase. No photographs, no recording devices. Any attempt to remove merchandise will result in immediate termination." I wasn't sure if termination referred to the transaction or to me, but I had no intention of finding out. I sent the Bitcoin to the provided wallet address. At precisely 2:45 p.m., I received coordinates and a simple instruction: gray Honda Civic in the southwest corner of Westfield Mall parking lot. Keys under front wheel well. Drive to coordinates. Arrive alone at 3:30 p.m. The coordinates led to an industrial area about 40 minutes outside of town, a stretch of warehouses and storage facilities that looked largely abandoned. I parked the Honda where instructed, beside a chain-link fence surrounding a concrete building with no signage. At exactly 3:30, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Front entrance. You are being watched." The entrance was a nondescript metal door with a keypad. As I approached, the lock clicked open. Inside was a small anteroom where a man in a suit waited, his face partially obscured by a surgical mask. "Phone?" He held out his hand. I surrendered my phone and allowed him to pass a metal detector wand over me. "Follow me." touch nothing, speak only when asked a direct question. I proceeded through another door into a long, clinically white hallway. The silence was absolute, broken only by our footsteps. We passed several closed doors before stopping at the one marked simply 217. 15 minutes, the man said, swiping a key card. I'll be right outside. The room beyond was small and sparsely furnished. A bed, a chair, a small table, and there was Mia, sitting rigidly on the edge of the bed. She looked thinner than I remembered, her eyes hollow, but otherwise unharmed. When she saw me, her expression didn't change. No recognition, no relief, nothing. Mia, I whispered, it's me, Alex. She tilted her head slightly. I'm sorry, but I think you have the wrong person. My name is 217. My blood ran cold. Mia, it's me. We've known each other since high school. You're a photographer. You live above Blackwell's bookstore. A flicker of something, confusion perhaps, crossed her face. I'm not supposed to talk about before. They said it's better if I forget. What did they tell you? I kept my voice low, aware of the man outside. Never mind. We don't have much time. I'm going to get you out of here. She shook her head, fear replacing the blank expression. No one leaves the collection. They told me what happens to runners. Please, just go. Forget about me. I'm not leaving without you. The FBI knows about this place. They're coming. I hoped that wasn't a complete lie. Then we're both dead, she said flatly. They have contingencies for everything. The moment authorities get close, this entire facility will be evacuated, or worse. Then we need to move now. I glanced at the door. When that guard comes back, we'll rush him together. I take his key card and we run. Mia laughed, a hollow, broken sound. And go where? They're everywhere, Alex. The people behind the collection, they're not just criminals. They're bankers, politicians, tech executives. They'll find us. So we just give up? I let them sell you to some monster? She looked down at her hands. You don't understand. I found them. Not the other way around. I was working on a series about digital privacy, following leads about data harvesting. I discovered the collection by accident. You should have gone to the police. I did. Her voice was bitter. To a detective I trusted. 2 days later, they took me from my apartment. The detective is one of their clients. My mind raced. The 15 minutes were ticking away. Listen to me, I have a car outside. If we can just get out of this building. Time's up, the guard announced, opening the door. Your viewing is concluded. I looked at Mia, silently pleading with her to take a chance. For a moment, I thought she would refuse. Then her eyes hardened with determination. Actually, she said to the guard, I'm feeling unwell. Could you bring some water? The guard hesitated and then nodded. Don't move, he told me, stepping into the hallway. The moment the door closed, Mia sprang into action. She reached under the mattress and pulled out what looked like a homemade blade fashioned from a piece of metal. I've been working on this for weeks, she whispered. Wasn't sure when to use it. When the guard returned with a paper cup of water, Mia pretended to stumble, spilling the water on him. In the confusion, I lunged forward, tackling him to the ground while Mia pressed her makeshift weapon against his throat. Keycard and phone, she demanded. Now! Minutes later, we were running down an emergency stairwell, alarms blaring behind us. We burst through a fire exit into a blinding daylight. The parking lot was already filled with men rushing toward the building. "The fence," Mia gasped, pulling me toward a section that bordered dense woods. "There's a gap. I've watched from my window." We reached the fence just as shouts erupted behind us. Gunshots rang out as we squeezed through the gap and plunged into the trees. We ran until our lungs burned, the sounds of the pursuit fading behind us. Hours later, huddled in a cheap motel room paid for with cash, Mia told me everything. The collection wasn't just a human trafficking operation. It was a marketplace for the elite to acquire people with specialized knowledge or skills. Photographers who had captured incriminating images, journalists who had uncovered the wrong story, programmers who knew too much about data security. "They don't just sell people's bodies," she explained, her voice low. "They sell silence." I wanted to go back to the FBI, but Mia's experience with the corrupt detective made her wary of all law enforcement. Instead, we spent the night creating a digital dead drop, uploading everything Mia knew about the collection, including the warehouse's location, to a timed file release that would send the information to multiple news outlets and federal agencies simultaneously. "Once this goes live, we disappear," she said. "Forever. New names, new lives, as far from here as possible. They'll never stop looking for us, will they?" She shook her head. "Not as long as we're alive." That was 3 years ago. The information we released sparked the largest human trafficking investigation in FBI history. Dozens of holding facilities were raided. Hundreds of victims were rescued. Several high-profile arrests were made, including 3 politicians, a police commissioner, and the CEO of a major tech company. But for every arrest, 10 others escaped justice. The collection's encrypted servers were never fully breached. The leadership remained anonymous. The network went dormant, but Mia and I knew it wasn't destroyed, just reorganizing, becoming more careful. We move every few months now, never stay anywhere long enough to be noticed, never use real names, never maintain social media, cash only, burner phones, constant vigilance. Sometimes I catch myself longing for my old life. Friends, family, a career, the simple pleasure of putting down roots. But then I remember the blank look in Mia's eyes when I found her, the clinical horror of that facility, and I know we can never go back. Last week, I found a small cage charm hanging from our motel room doorknob, the same design as the collections logo. No note, no explanation needed. They haven't forgotten. They're still watching, still waiting. So we keep running, always one step ahead, never looking back. Because the digital abyss doesn't forgive, and it never stops hunting what it considers its property. And somewhere out there, in the darkest corners of the internet, new auctions are beginning. Thanks for listening to my Dark Veil tale. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. It really does help me grow this channel so I can make more content for your enjoyment. Also, check out the linked video for another creeper-style story from Dark Veil Tales.